evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of our podcast, Beneath Your Skin. This time, we are going to talk about one of the best movies ever made, and we are talking about Friedkin's The Exorcist.
Hey,
Uh,
about time.
yes, totally. We waited long enough. First of all, I want to thank you all for listening. I'm still Gaia, still here, still dealing with madness around the world and trying not to go batshit crazy.
Pretty much in the same boat. This is Zoe. I'm still here. I'm learning to cut my own hair. That's how mad I've got. I don't know if this is going to go well because I've never used clippers a day in my life. But hey, it's a new skill to learn.
And I want to, first of all, I want to thank you, one of our listeners who is helping us it's helping me with technical difficulties about editing these episodes. And she's Cuties on the Horizon. You can find her on Discord and Twitter and Tumblr. She is amazing. She helped me so much, and it was finally time to thank her in this podcast. I also would like to open this new episode with an homage to Max von Sydow, Father Marin, and Christoph Paderewski, who was the music composer for The Exorcist. Both of them left us this year, and I think it was our duty to remind them.
That's definitely. And The Exorcist, I mean, the theme tune for The Exorcist is still one of the most iconic pieces of film scoring and pieces of music in like cinematic history. I mean, it's my ringtone on my phone. I absolutely adore it.
Totally. And it was time to finally analyze this amazing movie. I have to admit, rewatching it, I fell in love even more with this movie. And I picked up many things I missed the first few hundred times I watched the movie. For example, how in the beginning of the movie, we see the importance of silence in movies. Silence can be as important as words. Silence belongs to a time and a place that has its roots in the past. We see the beginning of the movie, the very first scene, it's the iconic red brick house in Georgetown. And then we go back into another time and another place. We reach Nineveh, northern part of Iraq, and we see people digging on an archaeological site, and we meet Father Marin for the first time. We don't know who he is. We won't know his name until almost the end of the movie. But we learn something about him little by little without the need of too many words. Through silence, we see this old man weakened by illness. We see he is shaking. He can't breathe well under the sun. He is not doing okay. And then we realize he is a priest because someone calls him father. And then we have that beautiful sequence of him walking through the streets, and the streets become emptier and emptier. It looks like he stepped back in time, because it looks like he almost is back when Nineveh was the center of the world. And then we have the iconic scene of Father Marin facing the statue of the ancient god. And they are facing each other, and we know sadly, what the whole movie is about. This is the never ending fight between good and evil. Those two are the two champions tasked with the safety or the doom of the world. And it's all there without words, without many things to fill the frame, making it harder to understand. We just, it's clean. It's very clean. The scene is clean. The frame is clean. And we know we are watching the two champions, two enemies ready to fight. And even if the fight will claim the life of one of them or both of them, they are ready. And then we are back into America and we have music and noises and words, because the new world is based on words, but the ancient one don't need them. And that's amazing. That was so powerful.
Yes, it's a strong opening. It's I like the idea that it sets up that these two figures have been in battle for a lot longer than they never say it, but they kind of like imply that Merrin has been out on this dig and he's been out on archaeological digs for a long time and he's looking, he's searching for something, and he finally finds it. He finds like the smaller statue. It's like, okay, the thing I've been looking for. But then by finding that, he's connected and he's drawn to where the larger statue is, and it's like, I knew I'd find you here. This ancient evil that I've been battling, potentially from the time that I was in Africa. Like, because it says that he spent months in Africa fighting like a demon. And he's like, okay, I found you again. Our war continues. I am going to continue this fight on. And yeah, it's a battle between these two characters that you barely see until right towards the end. But yeah, and then they choose to have that war on, well, it's poor Regan who gets to be like the battlefield.
Yes. And once again, we see a demon preying on an innocent girl, because those are the most wanted prizes
Yes.
for demons, to claim innocence, to destroy innocence. That's what they do. Because an innocent soul holds so much power than a stained soul. A soul is a soul, yes, but an innocent one, well, it's an even bigger winning for the evil side.
And also the idea that like that you never 100% know why Regan was chosen, but it's that idea that Regan came from like a bit of a broken home. Things aren't as good as like the mum has a facade of being like this great wealthy actress and her life is great, but at the same time you hear the way she talks about the ex-father and how much she like the amount of venom and poison when she's going on about him not calling on her birthday, and Regan hears that, and I think that's the tipping moment that allows the demon in, because Regan is just like, she feels ignored and rejected and doesn't quite know where she fits in, and she's not getting the attention a young girl needs, which is why it starts off as like, oh, she's doing it for attention, but it's no, she's had that moment of rejection from like her father, and then her mother reacting so badly to it, instead of being a mother and going, I'm so sorry, and the mother is using it as another way to go, oh my goodness, look at me, drama, and rather than it being about, and that's how like, yeah, our demon gets in, because that's the moment that kind of breaks that little innocent soul a little bit.
Yeah, Chris makes that scene about her, when it was in truth about Regan not being called by her father on her birthday. And I like how this movie shows us that most of the time horror movies are also family histories. This is a movie about families. Yes, a demon destroy one, but Father Karras, he too has a family he failed somehow. Because Father Karras, who is the psychiatrist, priest, who also is a Jesuit, and I will tell you after what the Jesuits were born to be. So we um, that that's something that, in truth, always left me a little bit not so convinced about this character, because we see he is not healthy, he is not wealthy at all. And okay, priests are not supposed to be wealthy, but the Jesuit order is one of the wealthiest. So it doesn't make much sense that his mother ended up in that terrible place, not because he has a background of study at Harvard and John Hopkins, and like his uncle tells him, if he didn't went into being a priest, he could have made a fortune with his background. And but because Jesuits have a lot of properties, and they also have a lot of retirement houses, so why wasn't Kara's mother accepted into one of those? That doesn't make much sense to me.
Aha. Yeah, see, I would not have known that because I don't really know the different orders of priests.
Exactly. So they needed to give him a reason why he was losing his faith, he was losing his his love for his job, and he needed a change of scenario. But I don't think when he was talking to his superior, he meant something like, okay, you know what, you will do an exorcism and you will realize demons are right and blah blah blah. I think he wasn't thinking about that kind of change,
No.
honestly. But yes, this is a family history movie. Karas and his mother, how she was abandoned at some point, old and alone. She died alone, and she wasn't found when she died, but only 2 days later. And we can see Tomas in Father Caras, of course, with his abuela's history and how she died alone when he was studying in America and blah, 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 blah. So we see how this movie inspired the TV show we so much loved. But it's also a story about a very busy mother, a single mother, who still tries to be there for her daughter. So Chris McNeil is a drama queen, of course. She is this huge actress. She wants attention focused on her, but she's also a good mother. She loves Regan. She tries to make time for Regan. She wants to spend her birthday with her. She wants to do normal things with her. And when she comes back from work, she comes back home from work. She's interested in what Regan did all day. So she's not a distant mother. She's a loving mother who finds herself in a very bad situation, and at some point she tries hard to find a solution for whatever Regan's problem is. So she starts taking her to hospitals, taking her to doctors, and in the end, she even calls an exorcist, because she knows that when science and everything logical failed her, she needs to look for a solution somewhere else. But this is a mother who really loved Regan. I think the demon preyed on Regan even for that, because the demon knew that taking Regan would destroy many people. All the people around her, all the people loving her, would be influenced by what was happening to Regan. And that's why demons are evil.
Yes, yeah, very much so. I do think like Chris is like she's not a perfect woman, but at the same time she's such a strong mother. She does all the right things. She does take Regan to the doctors. So many in these movies you see them, it's like, why don't you take your kids to doctors? Why would you would try everything logical and like to try and work out this thing. And it's like she's desperate, and I mean, and I do really love the scenes when the medical scenes in this, because it shows how close like people associate demonic possession and mental health issues, and demonic possession and special needs, to the point where rewatching it now, and when the doctor like prescribes Reagan Ritalin, I'm like, oh, that is something that a lot of like the kids I work with are on. And it really does help them. It helps them be able to function within social circles and keeps that edge off so they can like concentrate better. And it's like, yes, and Regan's behavior like is so much like a child that's either having autism or triggered a seizure, and these things can come later in life. You can be like a totally like mainstream neurotypical child and then develop a special need later on in life, and sometimes it's triggered by something, and sometimes it's just some pair breakdown in your genetics, and then it triggers like a relapse into a non-neurotypical mindset. And it's Regan's behavior is very much on that, like, no wonder they're all treating it like, and the doctors take it seriously as well. It's not like the one in Mark of the Devil when he's just like, oh, stress, it's just stress. They're like, no, this could be a mental health issue, this could be a degenerate disease, this could be like a brain tumor, this could be special needs, this could be epilepsy that's triggered like a non-neurotypical response. And it's like, I love the care and detail this movie takes to kind of go, everything is covered, and they do everything first before they go, oh, demons. They make it a logical and interesting like look at treating this before even the doctors themselves are like, so this might be a bit out of the box. But the thing is, he doesn't say she needs a like an exorcism. He says that for her own mental health, an exorcism might convince the part of her that's convinced herself that she's possessed to like be depossessed. So it's still such logical steps, which I really like that development. I think that's a lot of attention to detail.
Yeah, absolutely. And until the moment we start to see the physical change in Regan, we can really believe that she's mentally ill or she's developing something physical and mental. We don't always jump on the conclusion she's being possessed, even because we don't see anything that could suggest that she is being possessed, but the one scene with the Ouija board, of course, our old friend, the Ouija board. I don't know if in the 70s that was really something that happened, but when Chris was so curious about the Ouija board and decided to play with her, I was like, okay, that's not exactly something you want to do with your 12 years old daughter, and you should take the Ouija board and burn and salt it. But of course, it didn't happen, and so we know what happened. But that was the only scene that could make us believe that something was going on, because otherwise, Regan was a very happy child who suddenly began to behave so out of character. She began to be tested for everything in the books. And I enjoy the medical parts, but they were very heavy on me. And I think one of the scenes that really hit me harder was the desecrated Holy Virgin's statue. She is a mother figure, and there is nothing we can say against her. So I think that the moment you desecrate something related to her, it really hits you hard, because you basically did something very wrong to a mother. And that's always something that hits you hard, or at least it did for me. But also the medical scenes, they are very, I think it's because they are so very noisy. And I was almost hurt by how noisy those scenes were.
Yeah.
And they made me feel very uncomfortable.
I think they did their job well. There are two scenes in particular that I felt uncomfortable. When she's getting the CT scan and just how loud it is. And they turn up the volume so that you can get a sense of the fear that this girl is going through. So you can really... The thing is the more she's scared, the more the possession can take hold. because obviously these things love to feed on fear, but it's that fear of the unknown. She doesn't know what's happening to her. She's in a threatening situation. She doesn't know these people are trying to help her or hinder her. She's just like, and that level of anxiety is rising in her. And so to make sure that we are feeling those levels of anxiety go up, we're bombarded with that horrible noise, and it just makes you feel so uncomfortable. And the one scene that I can't watch in the whole movie is when she's having the neck tap and she's being bled out the neck. And I'm just
Oh
like,
yeah.
because she looks so scared and so uncomfortable, and they're like, it's gonna be okay. And yet, and then and it's just like, this is such a scared, frightened little girl, and there's a big old needle, and there's shoving something down her neck, and I'm like, that's the most horrifying thing I have ever seen. And it's just like, that scene just really makes me just so, that coil inside you. And I suppose that's why these scenes are in there, to heighten your anxiety, to help you understand how much fear this girl must be going through, and to kind of like this real sense of like, it's a child and you want to protect her, and you don't want her to go through this, but there doesn't seem to be any outlet. And also you can sympathize with Chris, like how much anxiety must that mother be going through, seeing all these procedures going on with her daughter that used to be a happy, like, loving little child, and now this is all going on. And then they switch it from all like the physical and the noise to the use of language, to also like, it's such a juxtaposition, because you're just like, oh, that noise is horrible, oh, this poor child, oh my goodness, I must mother her, I must protect her, oh my god, the language on that child, oh my god, like, shut her up. And instantly you're like, oh no, it's not the child swearing at you, it's the demon within. But you're like, how? And you just like, it unsettles you that you want to love and nurture them, look after, and you feel sorry for this child, to, that is bad language, child. You're angry, and you're like, no, but you shouldn't feel angry, but you just can't help it when, like, some of the things that this kid says, you're just like, whoo, it's beyond like anything. I mean, they even have that moment, like the first time they repeat the swear, the doctor and the mum are kind of like shocked, but also they kind of had that little like, because it's, I mean, I work with kids. Every now and again, a kid like swears at you out of anger, and you have to keep a straight face and go, "We don't use that language in school." But you turn around and go, because it's like, well, I didn't expect that to come out of you, like, you know. But it's kind of like, you know, a one-off swear every now and again. You're just like, oh, and even the doctor's like, yeah, and then the mum's like, okay, yeah. But then, like, one harmless swear turns into some of the worst profanity you've ever heard in a film, coming out of a child that, like, earlier you were just like, this girl is so sweet and so innocent, and you like, that's when you know it's all just changing, and like, it doesn't allow you a chance to kind of settle at any moment. It just keeps throwing things to keep you unnerved and keep it all very unpredictable, and your state of anxiety is just very tense.
Yeah, because you know something bad is going to happen soon, but you don't know when. So you are in a constant state of tension, waiting for something, and that's amazing. That's the feeling you want to feel watching a horror movie. But I also like the moment in which we see Regan starting to change physically, and it's the scene when she's being hypnotized. The doctor is there. They want to talk with the entity inside Regan, and at first we have the frame full of only her face. We see her face, we see her eyes. She's very pale. Her lips are cracked. She's she's a very scared child. At the moment the doctor wants to talk to the entity inside her, she changed. You can see it in her eyes. I think the makeup was amazing because it wasn't yet too extreme, but also the actress was very good because she totally changed expression. It was like watching at another person really coming out of her, and we knew that person, that new person, was nothing good. We can see in her eyes that this new person is evil, pure evil. And then we know that something very terrible is happening inside her. She is trapped in her own body by this very powerful demon, and she can't find our way out alone. And that's the moment we really start to forget about everything medical and we focus on what's very wrong with her. So we that scene leads us to finally meeting Father Karras, and Father Karras will lead us to Father Marin and to the exorcism being done. And that's the point. That's the point of no return. When we see the demon for the first time, we know that life will never be the same again for Regan and her family. And we know nothing will be well again until the moment this entity is eradicated from her. But how? How are we going to do this? What is Chris supposed to do now? And she does what every mother would do to help her daughter. After everything else failed her, she goes to this psychiatrist priest, and she doesn't even ask for a consult or something. She goes straight into, okay, what an exorcism for someone I love. And Father Karras is like, excuse me? Because even Father Karras doesn't believe in exorcism anymore, because the modern church tries to, or at least tried in the 70s, to become modernized. So they tried to leave behind everything that was considered an heritage of the past. And of course, demonic possession and exorcism were among the things they tried to leave behind. We know that nowadays things changed once again, but in the 70s, it was possible that a priest, a Catholic priest, would look at you and say that demonic possession wasn't real, because probably they didn't even see any during the long years spent studying to become a priest. And we are talking about America. Probably in Italy or in South America or in Africa, people still believed in demonic possession, but America was the greatest country in the world, the most modern country in the world. They couldn't believe in something so ancient and extreme. And Father Karras is a son of his own times. So he is a priest. He has a sound logical background. So he goes to see Regan, but he believes that Regan is not really possessed. He believes she is mentally ill. And then we know many things happening, and he gets less and less convinced that this is mental illness, and he starts to see, okay, if I can't find a solution for this, perhaps I have to talk to someone higher than me. And I like that in this movie, the higher ranks of the church, they believe him. The moment he goes to the bishop asking for an exorcism, the bishop doesn't even question him. He only asks him, okay, you are sure there is nothing wrong with her mentally, and you did everything you could to try to help her in a, okay, then we are going to call for an exorcist. And they decide, and we finally learn Father Mary's name, because they call him, and we know something, we discover something else about his background. He spent 1 month fighting against the demon in Africa 20 years ago. So we know this man, the man they are going to call, is someone who knows what's happening and what he will have to do. And I love the moment Father Marin arrives after the young Jesuit gives him the letter. We see in his eyes that he knows his old enemy is back. And when he arrives at Chris' house, we also see in his eyes that he knows this will be the last act of his life. He is ready to die. He knows he's going to die because he's weak. His illness is slowly already killing him, and he knows his heart is not going to survive this because he's already weak, but he's still there. Even if he knows this will probably kill him, he's still there. And I love the iconography. The stole he wears is purple. Purple is the color of murmuring in the church. You have purple stoles during Lent because it represents the color they wear when Christ is dead. Purple is the color you wear during funerals because it represents the death. But death for the Catholic Church, it also means the victory of life over death itself, because Christ resurrects after 3 days. So the iconography is so powerful. Father Merrin is wearing purple, so he knows someone is going to die. The demon, perhaps even Regan, perhaps he himself, but even dying, even if he or Regan dies, God is with them and they will defeat death. So it's powerful, it's beautiful, it's everything you wanted to see. And I adore Max von Sydow and his blue eyes. They are so cold and they are so perfect for the role. And when he enters into the room and he starts to pray, and Father Karras is terrified and he doesn't know what to expect, what to do. And Merrin is so stoic, so powerful. Even if he's an old man with a weak body, his faith and his knowledge that God is with them, God is more powerful than the demon inside Regan. And he's calm, he's so calm, so at ease. And you are like, wow, this is a man you don't want to cross. This is a man who can kick your ass. And it's so beautiful, so perfect. And it also leads to the scene in which Father Karras loses it and he begins to punch Regan. Yeah, that's not exactly how you do an exorcism.
No, not quite working there. Yeah.
You know what? If it works for you, whatever. But no, those scenes with the Father Merrin, they are so powerful and so beautiful, and I adore them. I totally adore them.
Yes, no. I mean, the whole build-up to it is amazing. It's like you don't actually get to even meet Father Merrin until I think it's an hour and a half into the movie, like, is when he turns up. Because I remember checking the time to kind of go, because I was watching the extended version, and I was like, this is a bit longer than I remember it being, and I was like, I didn't realise I was watching the extended version at the time. But it's that, like, you have seen so much horror up until this point, and it does the horror really well. It still stands the test of time of being able to unnerve. Like, it has, like, little bits, like, when the mother's in the room with Regan, and she's all like, the sow is mine, and then you see the bedroom furniture move, and the door shut. It's still kind of, like, it still has that jump. And that's the point when the mother was like, this is not normal, this is not medical, because, you know, wardrobes just don't come towards you and chairs don't fly into doors. So she's seen the supernatural now. Now she needs to bring someone else in to see the supernatural. And Karras comes in, and he's not convinced that there's a supernatural element to that, but he goes through all the tests of, like, a demonic possession is like talking in a foreign language. Well, technically Regan isn't talking in a foreign language. She's talking in English, but backwards. And then there's the aversion to holy water. Well, this demon is clever, and you get the feeling that this demon is ancient. It knows all the tricks in the book, and that's why it keeps outwitting the test. It's speaking in fake foreign language, backwards language. It's pretending to be allergic to, like, holy water when it knows that it's tap water, but it's so that, like, he could tell that Karras is a young, naive priest. and it's like I can play you, I can move past these things. And then the other bit that always creeps me out, because I hate it when humans move in a manner that isn't humanly should be able to move it, is when you see Regan come down the stairs backwards. I always back away from the TV going, nope, nope, I cannot stand it. Like, it's creepy as, and it's like, we need Karas to see the supernatural element. And then finally he does at night when he sees the words carved across Regan's body while she's sleeping. And he's like, that's not, other things you can play with and other things you can kind of go, well, that's not quite right. But that, there is no logical explanation. There is no science behind that. That is the little girl calling out from within the demon for help. And he's like, he can't deny that. He has to. And then, as you say, the church are like, okay, we believe you. And I like that, like, we're not going to do the whole, like, spend ages arguing about it being archaic to do an exorcism. It's like, if you feel like for the faith and the health of this child, this is what's needed, we will call someone in and we're going to treat it seriously. We're going to bring in someone of experience, and therefore bringing in Merrin. And yeah, it's one of the greatest shots when, with the lamplight and it's an amazing shot, and it's just like, oh, here comes someone with gravitas. Here comes someone that can hold a scene, both in the form of the actor, but in the form of the man. Like, something that we've seen is so monstrous, and it's just like, it's disgusting, and it's writhing, and the bedroom's shaking, and it's crawled downstairs backwards. It's like, how can this frail old man, like win against such a beast? But he comes in, and those frailties aren't on display in front of the demon. The frailties aren't there. Like, yes, when he's not in front of her, he's kind of like, he's shaken, but he doesn't blink when she spits like crap all over his face. And Karas is there going, oh, what am I doing? Oh yes, I should answer to this. And yeah, Merrin is just like, I've been ready for this battle. I know what's going to happen, and this jewel is probably going to kill me, but I am not going to show any fear. And you see it, the demon doesn't like give him any like or near the taunts forever. All the taunts and all the like, oh, your grandmother died and she's in hell and stuff, they all go to Karas to try and get Karas to like break down, because the demon knows that if it's a fair fight, Merrin can win this. And I love it. I love how easily these things all play out, but without any exposition. You can just, from the feelings, from the way the actors command the scenes, from the movement, you get all the beats to know how epic a battle this is, and like how clever these like characters are.
Yeah, and they are made for each other. Father Karras is not in the demon's league. Marin is. So the demon preys on the weaker part in the right, because like that he thinks he can win. And we see Father Karras leave the room. He only comes back when Chris asks him if Regan is going to die. So that moment he finds his strength. He finds the reason to go back upstairs and keep fighting. He knows he has to save this child. And he goes back and he sees Father Marin died because he probably had an heart attack. So the demon is pretty sure he's going to win because his real opponent is gone now. But he doesn't think Father Karras is strong enough to fight in Father Marin's place. Okay, we said that kind of exorcism wasn't really one that you would use, but hey, it worked. It claimed Father Karras' life, but it worked. Regan is free, Regan is safe, and in the end, that was what was important. Everything is perfect, everything is fine. Regan doesn't remember anything about what happened, thank God, because otherwise I could have seen years and years and years of therapy in her life. And and also a few staying in a mental hospital, because after all of that, I loved the movie, I loved the cast, I loved everything about this amazing movie. So, people, I really hope you all watched it already. But if you didn't, please do yourself a favor. and watch it or rewatch it if you are a nerdy movie lover like I am.
No, it's an amazing film. I mean, the special effects hold up like really well. The makeup is so well done. There's so much like iconic scenes, like the bit when she breaks free from the bed and you see her stretching, and then you see in the background there's the statue that Merrin fought is like holding the demon together, and you're like, oh, and it's just like the way the light comes in from the bedroom window but everything else is black, and she's like, oh, and then the way then she does the levitation and her eyes go completely white. It's like they are good effects, but they're also iconic effects that help just fuel this. Like, this is so otherworldly, but also such an ancient battle. And then bits like when you see the exorcism going on, and then you see that quick flash of like the demon's face overlaid on her face, and that happens like twice. And it's like these tiny little moments. And then eventually, when like Karas goes a bit nuts and starts like punching her, and he's all like, take me instead, take me instead, and then you see his eyes flash the colour before he throws himself out the window to his death, and it's just like, oh, can you even really say that they beat like this demon? Because truthfully, the demon jumped host. The only way to save Regan in the end was Karas offered up his body as a new host, and the demon was like, well, that's the ultimate, like, screw you to the priests, I've won, is if I just take the young priest for myself. But obviously Karas throws himself out the window. And also, you notice that, like, while everything tells you the demon is called Pazuzu, they never once use its name in the movie. That is something you find out when you research it, that's the ancient like mythology that it's based on. So at no point does anyone ever say that it is Pazuzu. Like, as a fan of it, we know the demon's name, but if you just watch this movie alone, you would never find out what this creature's name is, which is also why you kind of feel of a sense at the end of the movie that, wait a minute, did they actually win? They won the battle for Regan, but they didn't, because to get rid of a demon properly, you need its name. That's how like you that's how you finally like overcome. So this movie wasn't a win in the bigger picture because they never found out the demon's name, and they didn't kill it, get rid of it totally. It jumped host, and then the host died. So somewhere out there, this entity is still existing, and you're like, oh God, I never thought about it. I always thought like they did the exorcism and then it's like, but they didn't really. They lost their lives. They saved Regan, but they never found the demon's name, and it's therefore still out there ready to win the war.
Of course, even because Karas kills himself, so he can't do any evil act while controlled by the demon. But a demon, for its own nature, is immortal. So to kill the host doesn't mean automatically that you kill the demon inside him. So yes, he is out there. And probably he's already looking for another host. And we will find out more because there is a whole saga following this first movie. And we are going to watch and analyze it whole, and we are going to tell you what we think and what we find out. And if Soy doesn't have anything else to say, I think this is the moment we can say goodbye and thank you.
Yes, no, pleasure talking about The Exorcist. I always love talking about The Exorcist. It's one of the best horror movies ever made and just holds up beautifully. But for now, I'm just, say bye-bye, and I hope you enjoyed this episode.